Classifying amines, we're just going to look at compare an amine to an alcohol to start with, because the classification is a little bit different. So if we look at the alcohol here on the left hand side, propan-2-ol, in terms of classifying this, what we'd look at is the carbon, and we can see that the carbon in propan-2-ol is bonded to two R groups, or you might look at it that it's one hydrogen, and this means that propan-2-ol is a secondary alcohol. So you might think, if we look at the amine on the right hand side, it would follow the same method of classification. However, we're not interested in the carbon that it's attached to. What we'll be looking at when we classify amines is the nitrogen, and this is not a secondary amine. So focusing on the nitrogen, if the nitrogen is attached to two hydrogens and just the solitary R group, this makes it a primary. If the nitrogen is attached to one hydrogen but two R groups, this makes it a secondary. And if the nitrogen has no hydrogens attached but three R groups, this is a tertiary amine. So going back to the example that we looked at before, we just ignore the carbon chain, but looking at the nitrogen, so that nitrogen is attached to two hydrogens and just one R group, which makes this a primary amine. Now have a go at classifying these three particular amines. Let's start with the one on the left. Again, let's just focus on the nitrogen. We can see that the nitrogen is attached just to one hydrogen, or you might think of it as two R groups. So what does that make this amine? Well done if you said secondary. Looking at the one in the middle, the nitrogen now attached to two hydrogens and just one R group as you're looking at it, which makes this one a primary amine. And the one on the right hand side, well, we can see that there are no hydrogens attached to the nitrogen but three R groups, so this is a tertiary amine.